Hey, what's up, everybody? How you doing? Episode number 385, Drink Until You Podcast, the only podcast that lasts until the last drop. How the hell is your Sunday going? How the hell was your week? Hope everybody's okay. I hope you're safe out there. I am drinking, once again, this Corona Premier. 180 calories for a 24 fluid ounce can, about 5.2 carbs for the entire can, which, in case you haven't been keeping up, I changed from the plant-based diet to low carb now, and I'm really liking it. And it's just nice to have options, you know what I mean? Like, I could do a few different things at this point to keep the carbs down, you know, kind of watch the calories. Liquor would definitely be the best way to go. But it kind of feels like, you know, vodka and stuff, you save those for the colder months. You know, when it's freezing cold outside, you need to warm the bones. That stuff works really well. But for the summertime, dude, this is perfect. I guess it was probably last week when I had one of these that triggered this kind of craving for beer. But there's something about in the summertime, you know, going to the lake, you know, sitting poolside or having a barbecue or going to a baseball game. There's something about beer that, you know, the seltzers just can't touch. Those just go hand in hand, just like the beer flavor. And in summertime, so I don't have to suffer too much. You know, it's really not that many carbs, and it's delicious. So instead of talking about it, let's go ahead and have our first drink. I already cracked this one open, had a few sips off the top. If you got them, drink them. Bottoms up. Cheers, everybody. And yes, we're going to talk some NHL. Of course, we're going to talk some NHL. We're also going to talk these conspiracies. That'll probably take up my entire episode here. But I've been kind of falling down this rabbit hole, this conspiracy rabbit hole. And let me just preface this by saying, when I see something online, a picture, you know, or even a video, sometimes it's really not hard to trick me. I can't tell anymore if things are AI or not. Like, I have to sift through comments to have someone literally say, oh, that's just AI. And then I roll with that. I just believe that because some random person on the internet said it was AI. I just go with that. If that person's not in the comments, I guess I'm just believing it's true. You know, I just really it's just getting better and better. Like, that's kind of the scary thing, is it's so good you're not going to know what to believe. You can make the president, you know, an AI version of the president and make him come out and say all kinds of crazy shit. Crazier shit, I guess I could say. But I've been getting into this conspiracy about the bells. Supposedly, over the years, bells, you know, like you would find in like a church or, you know, anything like that, some kind of temple, bells have just been slowly disappearing over the years. And the theory is, these bells, when rung, you know, like you have the singing bowls in certain parts of the world. You like rub the stick on them and they send out these like nice vibrations, these nice tones, you know. And I think this is really only hitting me because I am a musician and I do think about music like probably 90% of the time. But supposedly they're taking away the bells because they have some sort of like healing property. Like certain tones are pleasing to humans and other tones aren't. You know, and supposedly, I guess that's what the bells were for. I thought the bells were to just signify, like, you know, growing up when churches starting, I thought that's what it's for. Or even, you know, like on a clock or something, a big clock. I thought it was just for, you know, it rings 12 times when it's noon. It rings 1 time when it's 1. You know, 2 times when it's 2, 3 times when it's 3, and so on. But yeah, supposedly, and it kind of makes sense too. Like if you go on YouTube and you put on some healing tones, I guess they would say, you can kind of feel it. You put it in the headphones, you get it close to your brain, right through your ear holes. And it does feel nice, you know what I mean? Like certain tones, I kind of get it, and supposedly, like I said, that's the conspiracy, is they're taking these bells away throughout the world, kind of like burying the idea along with it that tones can be healing. So I'm kind of looking to this further. And, people always make these pictures. There's like, never forget what they took from us. And the picture had some bells in it. It had, like in certain videos, they'll put like sand on a speaker and play a certain note. And the sand actually like aligns to that frequency. Like every note you would play through that speaker, if you put sand on there, it's gonna look different. It's going to take a completely different shape because it's a completely different tone. You know what I mean? So they had just a group of pictures up there. So I kind of started researching it a little bit more. And there's an even bigger conspiracy. What year did they say? In 1953. I think this had something to do with the Rockefellers. They basically changed music forever. They changed the overall frequency of things we hear forever. And basically it's 432 hertz is the frequency we should be in, but 440 hertz is the frequency like music's written in, and all kinds of stuff now. So that little gap was supposedly, and this is just going along with what the conspiracy said, that little gap was supposedly just to, kind of cause humans to be a little more irritated or irritable or not as soothed, listening to music. And, it's like, why would they do that? And they went on further to explain it's just kind of like a control thing. You keep people guessing, you keep people on their toes. They don't know what to do next. They don't know, it kind of gets confusing. Things can kind of get, I don't know the word I'm trying to put to it, but it's basically like an irritant to us, to change the frequency. So I kind of looked into it a little bit more, and there is absolutely a difference. It's a very, very slight difference. Obviously 432 versus 440, it's not off by much. But you can obviously like take a computer and change any song into 432 hertz, and it just sounds softer. Like it sounds better. It's very, very slight. It's very, very subtle. But like all last week, I'm like listening to, things compared to each other, 432 versus 440. Here's a Soundgarden song that was written in 440, and here it is in 432. And it is just so much more pleasing in 432, which is basically like, if I had to kind of break it down for another musician, I don't know if I have musicians that listen to this podcast. But if I had to break it down for another musician, if you're like, you got a guitar in your hands and you play the biggest string, the fat string, the E string, that would be like our standard tuning right now is like 440 hertz. And basically to get to 432, it would be basically, I guess maybe a D sharp or an E flat. You're basically tuning down a quarter of a step rather than half a step. And there's actually tuners out there that you can buy that'll get you in the right zone. If you'd like to be that specific, they definitely make tuners to go to 432 hertz, which I'm going to start doing. I got to find a tuner first that'll do it all. And then I want to start tuning all of my guitars to, that 432 and just see, man. I have tons of things I've written on guitar over the years that I've always just heard in standard tuning. I'd love to hear what they sound like, and, for lack of a better word or term for it, the appropriate tuning, And so, yeah, it's just slightly off, but it really does make a difference. Like I said, I listened to that Soundgarden song, which I've heard a million times, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds normal. And then they changed it to 432. I'm like, that's the same song, but it does feel better. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a tricky thing. I don't know. I'm going to start tuning all my stuff to that and writing music like that. Somebody said the Beatles kind of discovered this back in the day. They had their trip to India and they came back and they were like tuning their guitars different. They were tuning it to 432 rather than what they had originally done. And you always kind of wonder, like, and you hear people say things like, yeah, they don't make music like that anymore. And in some ways, if this conspiracy is true, I mean, okay, let's just take it like this. Conspiracy or not, if this was done on purpose, to just like agitate people and like kind of keep them on their toes and stuff, if it was done on purpose or it was just something that just happened by chance, either way, 432 hertz for my ear is easier listening. You know what I mean? So I could totally get, how think about someone who grew up in listening to music in the 40s, and then there was a change all of a sudden, and then, it kind of makes you think about older people. Like all those, when rock and roll was starting to really heat up and the mothers in the household banded together to like be like, this isn't music and this sounds crazy, and like the devil's music, like all that shit kind of makes you wonder. It's like, what if they were used to hearing, a natural, more relaxed type of music being written, and then all of a sudden you got fucking Elvis Presley and he's playing in, and none of this is historically accurate. I'm just throwing out examples. I know the mothers would band together a lot, like later in the 70s and stuff, like Mothers Against Kiss and all that. And a lot of that had to do with like the shows, the dramatization of the shows. They're all wearing masks, they got blood coming out of their mouth. There's pyrotechnics. I could totally understand from a mom's standpoint who's listening to like 50s music, how that's like just outrageous and that is the devil's music. But I kind of wonder too, if it had something to do with the change. It had something to do. You can tell, like, if you're one of those people that was born in that time, you can tell something with this new music is off. It feels more abrasive. It sounds more harsh. And you're just like, I don't like it. That's not music. That's like the classic trope of an old man, listening to his son's music. Oh, that's not music. It kind of makes you think. It's kind of been making me think. It's like, what were they hearing? Something didn't sit right with them at some point in time. And sure that, they didn't do themselves, and I'm speaking about the mom groups, they didn't do themselves any favors by, making it religious. But at the same time, they could tell something was off. They had grown up this whole time listening to a certain kind of pleasing tone to music. And here comes Elvis the Pelvis with his 440 hertz music, and it's just like, what the fuck is going on? What is that? What are you listening to? I think that would freak anybody out, right? So yeah, like I said, I don't know if the conspiracy is true or not. Obviously, they're calling it a conspiracy online because there's no proof. But I could totally see how that might have happened. How that might have changed your perception of new music coming out. It doesn't, Doesn't sound the same. Like I said, the same things I keep saying. They don't make music like that anymore. And I kind of always wondered too with older music, like how did they capture that essence? How did they capture that vibe so well of the time? And that might have something to do with it right there. Just music just used to be joyful. I'm not saying I don't like the heavier stuff. Obviously I do. But what would that stuff sound like? I'm kind of fantasizing about just getting a computer just for music and being able to like convert all the music I like to listen to over to 432 hertz, hardcore music, punk music, whatever, any kind of country music, everything, just converting it over just to see the difference. If you did that for a week, I wonder how different you would feel, but yeah, there's something in the tones. There's definitely something, whether the conspiracy is true or not. 432 and 440 are different. They're just different. And as crazy as that older generation might have sounded, bitching at their kids, it might have been some truth to it. To their ear, they got used to this. They've listened to the radio for 15 years, and all of a sudden, things are just different. So I've been falling down that rabbit hole. I do think it's super interesting. If you have anything to add, please write me at drinkuntilyou.podcast@gmail.com. Hit me up on Twitter at drinkuntilyou, Facebook, Instagram, drinkuntilyou podcast. Let me know what you think, man. I've kind of been fascinated with this lately, and like I said, I'm tuning all my stuff. I got to find a good tuner, like I said before, but once I get that and I can actually tune it in, I'm going to do that and just kind of start playing through some things I've written over the years. They might resonate even more, or I might like them even more than I ever had before, So, anyways, let's go ahead and have another drink. Cheers, everybody. All right, moving on to a little sports, a lot of sports. We'll go ahead and start small. My Texas Rangers, not doing so well still. I saw someone post on Twitter, I think it's Proud Rangers fan, and they're basically like, I think I've come to the point to where I'm realizing this team is just not good, which is really sad. Like, the amount of effort I'm sure management has put into building this pitching staff. Dude, we got DeGrom, we got Evaldi, we got, Heaney was doing pretty good. I don't know if he's injured now. It's like we got a really good pitching staff, and it's just like we can't score runs, or we can't score enough runs. I see Simeon coming on a little bit. I know Adolis, they kind of moved him down for a second, but then in the last series, like, they moved him to AAA, I believe. Or maybe they just took him off out of the batting order. He's still traveling with the team. I don't know exactly, but he basically wasn't playing. And then that last game against Tampa Bay that we lost, he's in there again. It's like, okay, is he playing good or is he playing bad? Because that's the reason I heard he was taken out, was because he was just not getting it done. And then a few games later, he's back in. It's like, I don't know. Or would they rather just go with the more seasoned guy, even if he's playing bad? Hadn't seen Jock Peterson. I didn't see him in that last game. Bravo for what they're doing. The Rangers management, it's that next man up mentality. Yeah, don't be afraid to sit somebody. If you're playing like shit, if you can't get a single hit, don't be afraid to sit them. That's a great thing. Don't be afraid to change up the lineup. Adolis, I know you're used to hitting third. You're hitting eighth now. I love that. Just kind of tweaking and and finding a way for our team to score some runs so we can win some games here. I mean, it's not out of hand yet. Luckily, Seattle isn't running away with it yet, but it's coming. If we keep losing series, if we keep getting swept, it's what are we can't do anything. We're not even going to sniff a wild card spot, you know what I mean? So that's the little I do know about baseball. I think we're facing off against the Nationals this series, and which I don't think the Nationals are good. Oh, dude, that's the thing too. We lost the series to the White Sox. That is one of the worst teams in baseball, and they have been. And I love the White Sox, don't get me wrong, I really do. I love a shitty team. I love the Oakland A's for a long time. I love the White Sox. I like a crap team. Just because, when they squeak out wins, it feels more special. They probably had to grind. They don't have the big names, to hit the ball out of the park. But yeah, I like when they can get a victory. And dude, they beat us 2 out of 3 games. I'm like, what the hell? If that's the test, that's the litmus test to give my Rangers a ranking, yeah, it's not good. It's not good at all. It's looking horrible. Indiana Pacers versus the Oklahoma City Thunder to change gears into the NBA. Dude, I totally turned off that game 1 because I thought Oklahoma City had it in the bag. A lot of people are saying this is like a David versus Goliath, and the Pacers are David and OKC's Goliath. And yeah, I turned the game off, and come to find out the next morning, the Pacers won. Good for Rick Carlisle. Good for them. They have a game here tonight. NHL is tomorrow, Monday. But yeah, I'm still going for OKC, excuse me. I think they're going to do it. One game doesn't make a series. Kind of like, my Stars came out in that series against Edmonton. And, we were just getting our ass kicked game 1. And we squeaked that one out. We played well enough to beat them in that game 1. And, we lost it from there. Does OKC do that same thing? Do they just shut them down from here on out? I'm pretty sure that series is just 1-0. Let's see, when was that? They had to have played 2 by now. The series might be tied. I could look. I'm just not going to. But, I'm going for OKC. I really would love to get up there. It's a 4-hour drive to get to their stadium. I would love to, make a week of it. Take a week of vacation. Stop at at WinStar on the way, go up, see the game, come back to WinStar on the way down, and then back home. That would be fun as hell. But dude, tickets, I'm not getting a ticket. I wouldn't pay $560 to see my Dallas Stars in the Stanley Cup final. I'm just not paying that kind of money. I can be the biggest hardcore sports fan in the world. I just have a limit. I'm not going to pay that kind of money and it's more of a hassle too, the vacation trip I'm talking about, that would be fun. You get a whole little experience out of it. That would be fun. But yeah, just going to the game, finding parking, the game part of it's fun, standing in line to get something to eat, standing in line to take a piss. It's but the game part's fun, and then when the game's over, it's fuck, now I'm stuck. Dude, I remember some years ago when Cashing In played in Houston, my old band. We played in Houston, and they won, literally, the night we played the show, they won the World Series. I think their second World Series. And I mean, it was timed perfectly. Like, as soon we were done loading up, the game's still on. We're kind of standing around watching it. And of course, like, we have to come back to Dallas. We all, various people in the bands have jobs they have to be at on Monday. And yeah, the show wrapped up. We loaded up. We're just sitting there bullshitting with the other bands and whoever was there to see the show. And we decided to leave before the game was over. And it was perfect timing because, I mean, those streets we were about to drive down, I mean, they were already getting packed. I mean, people just honking at each other and yelling out the window. It was a fun atmosphere, but you never want to be around for that after-game traffic. I remember as a kid, my dad would just be like, let's go. I was like, Dad, it's not over yet. He's like, let's go. Like, we didn't know the headache he was going to have to endure to get out of that stadium and all the fucking, all the stress it was going to cause. So, yeah, luckily that show, we got out of there at the perfect time. They won it. I'm sure the city was packed. I mean, crazy shit happening in the streets of Houston, and it was just perfect timing. I mean, we got on the highway and we were gone, while the people are starting to, come out of the woodwork to celebrate. They were going probably to the bar that we just left and played a show at to celebrate more. You know what I mean? It was going to be a mess. As always, don't drink and drive. Treat yourself to an Uber. Treat yourself to a Lyft. Let's go ahead and have another drink. If you got them, drink them. Bottoms up. Cheers, everybody. Moving on to the NHL. My Dallas Stars firing head coach Peter DeBoer after his comments he made basically about Ottinger. And, I like Ottinger. I think he's a good goalie. He's still young. He's still improving. But the thing that DeBoer pointed out about Ottinger in that, I guess, the final press conference, he pulled the goalie in the third period, or in the first period, I mean. After getting scored on twice, he put in our backup, DeSmith. And, that was just like a slap in the face to Ottinger. And it's like, yeah, but if what DeBoer said about Ottinger was not true, I could understand more backlash, but it was true. Like, if the truth hurts and it pisses you off that bad, Jake Ottinger, don't let it be the truth. You know what I mean? And I think rightfully DeBoer pulled him. I'm not saying he put in, he made the best decision, but he's panicked. This is an elimination game, and we're all of a sudden down by 2, with a team who's not scoring very much. It's like, we can't let this get out of hand. And all Stars fans are like, yeah, then he put in DeSmith, and then DeSmith let one in that, Ottinger probably would have saved. And it's like, we were just past that by that point. I totally get his decision. And you know what? Furthermore, I support what he said about Ottinger in that press conference. He said the last 3 elimination games, Ottinger has let up 2 goals on 2 shots, basically. I don't know that to be true. I'd have to go back and do research, but he's the goddamn head coach. Like, he would know. This is his job on the line. He would know. You know what I mean? So I have that to go by, and I applaud him for saying that because it's the truth. Like I said, if he had made something up that wasn't true, it's like, that guy's a dick. Don't do that. But no, he said something that was true. It hurt Ottinger's feelings, and the players basically in their exiting, for the season, they do like exit interviews for the season. It apparently pissed him off and a few other players, and they didn't want to play for DeBoer anymore, and it was a big mess. So DeBoer's gone. Ottinger's still here. I do like Ottinger, but that makes me like him less, dude. Like, grow a fucking pair, bro. Like, we gotta, and I said this online, dude, like, I think our next coach, screw winning a Stanley Cup. Our next coach should be a Bill Parcells type of non-nonsense coach that doesn't give two fucks about your feelings, that's going to berate you. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's the best way of coaching, but it's like we need something else. This letting the players run the team and it's always the coach's fault, which it has been the years over years over years. Trust me, people, I watch this team every year and that's always the complaint. I mean, who was the coach of ours that came out in the press? It might have even been Jim Nill too. When Sagan and Ben, we're like trying to make these huge playoff runs and win the cup, and they called them out. They're like, our biggest players are not showing up. You should be doing that. And the only reason the microscope is on you, and I've said this a million times with Tyler Sagan, the only reason the microscope is on you is because you're making superstar money. If you don't sign that contract and you just make average money because you're a good player but not an amazing player, then we're probably not talking about you. We're probably talking about the highest paid player. But they both signed their contracts and knew, and I'm not saying they haven't tried over the years. They definitely have, but if you're making superstar money, we need superstar performances from you, and we've never got that from either guy. Outside of Jamie Benn's spectacular season, what was it, 2014? I might have the year off, but aside from his spectacular one season, they've had good seasons, but not superstar money seasons. Like, we're having to figure out how to get players on this team and work them around the money that you're making. And then when we go to the playoffs, Jamie Benn, for example, he's making stupid fucking penalties. Or Tyler Sagan, he had a couple of goals. He had a 2-goal game and an assist there once. We need more than once, dude. Once is not enough. But yeah, that's my biggest issue right now with the Dallas Stars is, and all these other teams, when we were playing them, Edmonton specifically, with the things we had going on with Hintz and everything, they're calling the Dallas players soft and all this and that, and Dallas fans are defending them online. And it's like, now that all of this has happened, it's like, yeah, that's what they were saying. You're going to get mad that a coach said that and get him fired, which, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's best both parties go separate ways. But over that, that's soft. That is soft. You know what I mean? Like, you can't hear any criticism. You're a grown man making millions of dollars playing a sport, and no one's allowed to criticize you. I don't like that. That ticks me off for Ottinger. But I think, this is just my humble opinion, the Dallas Stars are about to find out over the next couple of seasons what a good coach in Pete DeBoer they had. It's not easy getting to the Western Conference Finals 3 out of 4 years. That's not easy. And, you can say, just the same as they were. I mean, Dallas fans, some of them just, they don't know. They're saying the same things about Peter DeBoer that they were saying about Rick Bowness. But when Rick was out, they're all like, oh yeah, DeBoer, he's got some new style of hockey. He's for the younger players and for the younger generation. It's like, dude, no. Every coach in the NHL has a finite amount of plays they can implement. You know what I mean? We had some good set plays off of the draw. We had a good set play on the power play in one of those series where Jamie Benn took the pass and tipped it in from the high slot. You know what I mean? Like, we had some good shit. But, I mean, this is the one that kills me. Over and over, I just see things online about dump and chase. Oh, well, DeBoer was just a dump and chase coach. I guarantee you there will be multiple dump and chase goals scored in the Stanley Cup final. The best two teams in the NHL right now, implement the strategy of dump and chase. It's just a tool. You know what I mean? It's not an end-all be-all. It's just a tool in the tool bag. Sometimes you have to dump and chase. You're making a line change. It's a necessity sometimes. But when, DeBoer came in, everybody was excited, and he's got some new, fresh ideas and all blah, 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 blah. And it's like, dude, it comes down to execution. Like I said, if what I'm saying is true, there are a finite amount of tools that the coach can implement to get his team to score. It doesn't really matter who the coach is. It's just about execution. And our players don't execute. Our goalie in those first... And I get some people saying, those weren't his fault. Those weren't his fault. Those 2 goals weren't his fault. What about the other goofball goals he let in? What about getting beat 6-2? You know what I mean? Like, those weren't his fault too? Like, I get it. And I've said this for a long time. He needs defense. He definitely does. It felt like all season, dude was facing 50 shots a game. But, yeah, we definitely need defense, but you got to make those crucial saves. I went back through this series, game 4, when they're getting a breakaway on our power play. It's like he's not going to save that, and he didn't. And it's like when defense breaks down, that's what the goalie is supposed to do. And I'm not saying he never did that. There were some games I was just like, wow, dude, Ottinger just saved us. He might have given up 2, but he kept us in there in overtime, and we eventually won. Is like there's good and bad. But the part I don't like is the little bitch fit about what the coach said to the media, which was true. Sorry you don't like the truth, Ottinger. Can you change it from being the truth? And then he won't have anything to say. Instead of being mad at the coach, why don't you ever get on your D-man's ass? Why don't you ever say, where the fuck were you, man? You left me hanging. I never saw that happen. I never saw that level of frustration. It's just the coach. It's always the coach. And I mean, the Stars are just going to keep going through coaches. Coach after coach after coach after coach. They're just going to keep doing it until the culture changes. Until upper management and coaching realize, put their foot down and say, you guys aren't running this team. I will take a rookie over you if you're not going to play right. I would do it 100%, even if we lose 82 games in the season and don't even come close to the playoffs. At least I did it my way. At least I did it where you're not running the team. I'm running the team. And until you realize that, you're not going to play. It's just bullshit, man. These players have just been walking all over these coaches. And then they have the nerve to play bad for them or not show up or, get them fired. It's like, man, I'm done with this core group of players. We need a new culture. Hopefully with Rantanen moving forward, we can bring a new culture. Hopefully with a new coach, we can bring a new culture. Dude, I guarantee you, Hitchcock wouldn't have put up with that shit. As you can look at a picture, if you don't know hockey very well, you can look at a picture of Ken Hitchcock, and he looks like just a dorky dad. But I'm telling you, dude, he did not fucking play any games. If you weren't going to do what he wanted, he wasn't going to use you. He was a hard ass. We need a fucking hard ass to be in that position. Because this little throwing a bitch fit over what you said to the media and you're fired now and with all that said, I do think it's best they both parties go separate ways. That's probably the best thing. But it's not going to change until they change it. The culture is not going to change until management and coaching changes it. We need somebody strong who's not going to take shit from the players. And that's a respect thing. You know what I mean? You get in there and you earn respect amongst the players, they're more willing to play for you and lay it down for you. You know what I mean? It's like that thing, you can't be the boss and the friend. You really can't. You got to be one or the other. If you're the friend, you're not the boss. And if you're the boss, you're not the friend. I would rather have the Stars have the boss than the friend. So, anyways, that's my take. I did pick Edmonton to win. Those were two fucking epic games. Both of these teams are just not going to give up. It is an amazing Stanley Cup final. I'm so happy to be watching it. It's been a lot of fun so far. Series tied 1-1. They play tomorrow, Game 3, in Florida. So Florida got the split there in Edmonton. That's helpful for them. But anyways, that's going to do it for me. Let's go ahead and have our last drink. If you got them, drink them. Bottoms up. Cheers, everybody. All right, guys, that's it for me. I will talk to you next week. As always, don't drink and drive. Treat yourself to an Uber. Treat yourself to a Lyft. Treat yourself to a Waymo. If it's in your area, treat yourself to a DoorDash and Uber Eats, all that good shit. Just don't drink and drive. It's not worth it, is it? I will talk to you all next week. I love you all. Bye!